Om Shri Sai Ram, offering my most humble and loving salutations at the lotus feet of our beloved Bhagavan, Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Sai Ram, dear brothers and sisters and the viewers, again with gratitude we continue our journey of Ram Katha, Sai Katha, and let us begin this evening by our prayer, and please join me on that. O Lord, take my love and let it flow in fullness of devotion to Thee. O Lord, take my hands and let them work incessantly for Thee. O Lord, take my soul and let it be merged in one with Thee. O Lord, take my mind and thoughts and let them be in tune with Thee. O Lord, take my everything and let me be an instrument to work for Thee. Om Shri Sai Ram. We have been blessed to enjoy this beautiful saga of divine, and each and every episode of Ramayana fills us with, at least my experiences, fills us with gratitude and has allowed us to get a better glimpse into the life of an avatar and appreciate our good fortune which was bestowed on us by the beloved Lord. Today our journey has reached in this saga when Ram has ultimately accepted Sugriva, a Vanara king, as his friend. He has found his most beloved devotee, Hanuman, and now they have gone into a bond of friendship, officially with the oath with fire. And he has, on his request, Sugriva has fought with Bali, and Ram has, as promised, shot an arrow and killed Bali. Now we looked at this story, how Bali responded at the time of death, and what was his state of awareness, which very clearly showed us that how evolved that Vanara king was, and how great a personality he was. But attached to that episode, there is another character which needs little appreciation and little time. And let me invite my brother Raju into the stream. Sai Ram, brother Raju.
Sai Ram, brother. Sai Ram.
So Raju, as we were discussing before, and we have seen how at the end Bali was convinced by Bhagwan Ram for his follies. And even in that state, Bali had that, I would say, great blessing by his own merits to acknowledge Ram's divinity and tell Ram that Ram, I am very fortunate that I am finishing this life by your hands, watching you, listening to your voice, and what more great fortune can anybody have? And that is how Bali leaves his form and body. But as we go forward, there comes Bali's wife, Tara, and his son, Angad. And obviously, she is in pain to see her husband die such a fate, especially when she had requested Bali, not to go, at least for the second time. She pleaded him, and she knew very well that Sugriva is assisted by Ram, and she comes And at this is a junction when Ram seems to be consoling, should I say, Tara, who, as a mother, as a wife, is requesting to Bhagavan Ram that now what is the purpose of my life? Do I have to live under the supervision and under the mercy of others? And you have killed my husband. Who will take care of my son, who was destined to be a king, and now we have nowhere to go? And under that circumstances, how Bhagavan Ram convinces her and pacifies her. So please share your thoughts on it, because now we are talking about Tara, who is considered to be one of the five famous ladies of all times. They are even called Pancha Kanyas, the five ladies who are known to be the most pious, most elevated ladies of time ever. Sure, you can, Raju, you can elaborate on
Yes, sir.
that.
And I was thinking, if we read the explanation that Swami so beautifully gives as the conversation between Rama and Tara, we have to. When I read that conversation, I kept reading it multiple times because as soon as Rama's discourse to Tara ends, the first line after that, Swami starts off saying, hearing those words, wisdom dawned in Tara's mind. When Tara heard these words of counsel and consolation, wisdom dawned in her mind and she was calm. So I think as to why did Swami uh, put that particular sentence? And here I think we also have to look at the character of Tara and the circumstances that they were in. If you look at the line of argument that Rama gives, Rama first starts off with a very philosophical statement to Tara, saying that why are you weeping? Are you weeping for the body? The body is right here in front of you, but it has just the fecal matter. Some uses it as fecal matter, it has urine and nothing else. Then are you then weeping for the Chaitanya, Atma, which is spread everywhere? Then then he comes to a very brass tack saying he has done great things. He has served sages, he has worshipped gods, and in fact, he has killed demons. But the only sin that he had done was to injure his brother, to cause injury to his brother. Now, Rama is elevating the character of Vali. At the same time, he's also taking away the pain, taking away the suspicion from Tara's mind that Vali died an unfortunate death. And Swami beautifully, through Rama's words, Swami adds saying that even that sin is also washed away because he has died in my hands, which means he is now blemishless. And that, in fact, was exactly what we saw, like what Bhishma went through in his last moments when the blood was washed away. He came out with that Vishnu Sahasranama. In the same way, here is Vali, who is actually kind of not allowing Rama to revive him back. He's ready to die in Rama's hands. So it is that same wisdom that appears to have dawned on Tara's mind also, because she is after all Wali's wife. So imagine all the conversation that they would have had. Imagine all the moments that they would have spent together. All the elevating thoughts that they would have had. How much knowledge would have been shared by Wali to her. And it is that lady, and she understood as to what Rama is speaking, and immediately she regains her composure, and then the story moves forward. But I just thought how beautiful is the Lord Rama, even in those moments, he says is also very nicely. Swami in one discourse says Vedanta. You might cry that when you hear Swami's discourse that you are God. You might go back and cry and say that now how is that philosophy helping me that I am God? But remember, it is at that point of time that you have to remember that you are God. This message has to be used for those points, not to be left in those points of emotional uh, fallback. So I think that is what even here we are witnessing. Rama is using that Vedanta to drive home a deeper message to Tara.
Raju, don't you also think that we have seen Bhagwan responding differently to different people. And we have seen
Yes.
Bhagwan even shedding tears for somebody and being very neutral for another person. Even, for example, Sai Gita's death, he was remorseful and he was so attached. Like he expressed as if literally a daughter has died.
Hmm.
And whereas his own mother, when she left, he was quite calm about it. And then there are some occasions when his students have left and he has expressed. So you could see various variety of expressions which Bhagwan has displayed in on a similar occasions. And I also feel sometimes that it is he's a reflection of each one of us. So the way we are, he will respond to that and he will show us that way. So here was Tara, who was in agony, obviously, but because she was of such an elevated stature, that Ram could talk Vedanta to her at that junction. And when he spoke, she also understood and appreciated, and immediately she was transformed. And I really admire Swami has written there that Ram gave her Atma Gyan. Now, this
Yeah.
Atma Gyan, like you have just repeated it. We all know this sentence: "You are not the body, you are the Atman." 100 times you might have heard this. But imagine, as they say, no, that when the patram is ready, then even a drop makes a difference. And here was Tara who, when Ram said the same statement, she got realization and she became calm. So I feel that is why Tara probably is considered to be one of the Pancha Kanyas. And let us say the names of all the five so that people get an idea. Actually, people have a confusion whether Sita was part of it or not. But Sita was not in a Panch Kanya point of it because she was from a Devi perspective. But you had Tara. Can you tell the names, Raju? In fact, Mandodari was part of it. Raju, can you hear me?
Um, yes, brother, I can hear you. The signal is a little weak.
Tara, Sita, Mandodari, Draupadi,
Yeah. So it is Ahalya, Draupadi, Kunti, Tara,
Ahalya,
Mandodari.
Tara, Sita, Mandodari. Yeah. So these are five ladies who are Panchakanyas and Tara of that stature. So Vali's wife. So imagine how strong personality these people were. So that is where the beauty of whole thing. And then Bhagwan Ram instructs Sugriv to do the last ceremonies of Bali, and he in fact tells to take care of Angad as a prince, and he sends then Lakshman on his behalf to for the coronation of thing. So let us pause the story here because in the order of sequence when you're talking that day, I skipped it because of the Vali's episode. And there's one more beautiful incident which happens was when the formal friendship between Ram and Sugriv happens. Then Ram questions Sugriv about his life, and then Sugriv tells him that how he got to know about the mother Sita. And he said, there was one time I was sitting in council and we heard a loud noise as if somebody's crying. And I could immediately guess that that must be a Rakshasa abducting mother because he had heard about it. And he said, before we could do anything, the mother Sita threw a bundle of ornaments down to us. And he was very kind of unhappy and upset about the whole episode when he narrated that to Ram. And he goes to bring that. Raju, your mic is breaking. Yeah, I think your mic. Raju, is it making noise?
Words from
No, No, but you're echoing too much.
Echoing too much.
No, yeah, you're
Smartphone connected.
okay. Can you hear me? I think your microphone is making some
I
noise.
can hear you.
You were disconnected because it's making a lot of echo. Okay. Okay. Sorry, Sai Ram, sorry about that. So we were mentioning that how Bhagwan Sugriv has asked to take care of Angad and the coronation happens. But here, Sugriv is narrating the incident when he witnesses a lady being kidnapped, and then he makes a noise that yes, this could be the reason why this could be the reason that Sita was being abducted, and she threw those jewels at him, at towards him, and he goes to bring those jewels. Here, the interesting point is there are two aspects of it, and Brother Anil is supposed to come, and I would like him to share those things. That they have tried that how why should Sita throw her jewels only in one. Raju, it is echoing again from your side. Sorry.
Disconnect.
Can you hear me?
Can hear you.
Can you hear me clearly?
I can hear you clearly.
I think your headphone is giving that problem because a remote one. Is my voice clear? Yeah,
Am
echo
I
is a lot of
clear?
echo is coming suddenly. So there was a discussion that why Sita would share, because when she was taken away, there were a lot of people who might have seen her, and she has crossed through a lot of habitants places. So why would she bundle up all her jewels and throw it at one mountain where she saw this Vanara sitting? So why didn't she throw her jewels in different places if she wanted to leave a trail of her kidnapping? And that is where the beauty of the thought comes, that even in the divine play, which appeared kind of that they are enacting, or she was being abducted, but look at the way she threw, knowing very well that that is where Ram is going to come. And on the second point, her jewels are not ordinary jewels. The ornaments which mother wears has got a great significance. The ornaments which mother wears are described in many beautiful manner, and there we realize that not ordinary person can afford to hold the jewels and the ornaments of the mother. And that is where this I love this thought that Sugriv and the Vanaras were competent people to at least preserve and hold the jewels of mother. And mother knew that Lord Ram has to come this way and meet them. And that is why she took all her jewels, bundled up in a cloth piece, and threw it down at them. Otherwise, think logically, if anybody has been abducted or kidnapped, she would try to throw in different places her jewels to leave a trail of her direction, which way she is going, and how she should be handled. So this is I love that part, that this thought that how everything is so beautifully intertwined, that even in a very simple illustration of kidnapping, there is an element of divinity. Let me share with you Raju, you can say that, but let me share with you a nice few lines which Brother Anil had shared with us from Lalita Sahasranam, and that shows the description of the ornament of Mother Sita. Please take a time to read it. It's a fantastic, I love this part. See, Karma Prishtaji Vishnu Pradip Dan Manta, she whose feet have arches that rivals the back of tortoise in smoothness and in beauty. She whose two toenails give out such a radiance that all the darkness of ignorance is dispelled completely from those devotees who prostrate at her feet. She whose feet defeat lotus flowers in radiance. She whose auspicious lotus feet are adorned with gem-studded golden anklets that tinkle sweetly. She who is resplendent with a nose that has the beauty of a newly blossoming champaka flower. She who shines with a nose ornament that excels the luster of a star. She who is captivating, wearing bunches of kadamba flowers as a ear ornaments. She who wears the sun and the moon as a pair of large earrings. Now, this is a very beautiful depiction of Mother Sita's, and as we have seen before, that even in her travels, she was asked to keep them, and we can relate to this. Why I like to highlight this part, Raju, is that even in the normal storyline, if you look at it, there are signs of divinity in every step. As Sita, who left everything behind for Lord Ram, who gave up her comfort, carried all these ornaments along with her. One who did not budge for anything, all the arguments, was convinced that I should have these ornaments on me. And so she comes in the forest wearing the forest robes but having these jewels. Isn't that contradiction to the whole thought? And then when she is kidnapped, she chooses to collect all the ornaments and throws it at one place. I find it very fascinating that how in every element of Ramayana, the divinity and the humanness of Avatar go hand in hand. And the more and more I contemplate on this thought, I realize that's the way Bhagwan Baba used to be. In every act of his, however human he may look, there was a huge element of divinity just shining through. What do you say?
Second,
Smartphone connected.
hear me audible.
Raju, can you remove that? It's all echoing completely. Nobody can hear you. Listeners, viewers, can you?
Audible now. Whether now.
It is echoing too much.
Disconnected.
Am I audible?
You may want to disconnect the.
Okay, I don't
Again, log in and log
place
out.
that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry about this confusion, technical problems. Sorry, apologies. So let me continue this, and because this thought of description of a mother's ornaments is amazing. And the more and more we can think about it and how Bhagwan has described it so beautifully, but in a very subtle manner, that we are forced to contemplate on this thought that in every act of divine, however human he may look, it is beyond our comprehension. And how everything comes together is another beautiful exposure to look at how Bhagwan has described it. Now, when we take a more, okay, I think Raju is back. 1 minute. Yes, Raju?
Can you hear me now, brother? Am I audible?
Yes, now you're clear. Thank you.
Is it better?
Yes, yes.
Smartphone
Okay.
connected.
Yes, Raju, please share your
So,
thoughts. Thank you.
in one of the interviews, one of the conversations that Swami had granted us, so I remember one of our brothers was asking Swami that Swami, you give a lot of jewelry, rings, chains, bracelets, to so many devotees. Why don't you have one? So Swami said, then Swami smiled and said, I also have one jewelry, and he showed those two, the studs, the golden studs on his robe. So
Okay,
probably,
buttons.
I don't know, it crossed my mind, but probably the same thought would have crossed even that brother's mind, where where immediately Swami responded saying, "Hey, these studs are also not for my sake. These were gifted by one of the devotees, and they wanted me to wear them, and it makes them happy, and it is only for that reason that I wear these studs. It is only for giving you happiness. Otherwise, I remember Swami said, otherwise I would have actually got this entire robe stitched without this opening, and so that I can just wear it. But because the devotee insisted that I have these studs, and then Swami is saying, I earlier in my earlier robes there were buttons, and the devotee prayed that Swami, you should not have buttons, you should have these golden studs, and they gave me. It is only to make him happy that I use these jewels, and it's the same thing that we even see with Rama's carrying jewelry or Sita carrying jewelry. There is a phrase where apparently Vasishtha comes and and he notices that Sita is being asked by Kaika to take away all the jewelry from her body, and then Vasishtha strongly protests that Kaika might be having a right to ask the jewelry given by Dasharatha to be taken off, but she has no right to ask Sita to take away the jewelry that was given by Janaka and Sita's mother Sulochana. So and Kaika, everybody agrees that yes, there is a point to that. And then Mother Sita is allowed to wear the jewelry, and then she comes. In fact, that is the only point where Rama also does not protest. Otherwise, Rama protests every time that you take away all the ornaments. But when Vasishtha makes the argument, Rama also remains silent. And in fact, that was also the ring. It was a similar argument that was used even for Rama. And that's why he wears that ring which was given by Janaka, and in fact that becomes the insignia that allows Sita to identify Hanuman in the Ashokavana. And it is it, apparently at that point of time, if you look back at the story, at that point of time, had Vasishtha not entered, probably we would not have had these jewels at all. And the mood was so tense in the royal palace that Kaika was asking her to take away everything. And in that heat of the moment, probably Sita would have, as Valmiki described, in fact, Swami would also describe many times, Sita also would have taken away all the jewelry. But right at that moment comes Vasishtha, and then he raises this logical argument saying, Kaika does not have right to ask Sita to take away that jewelry. And that is the only jewelry which kind of connects the entire story later. That's the jewelry that Sita wears, and that is passed on to Hanuman, and in fact Sugriva, and then to Hanuman, and we know the entire trail after that. But as you're saying, in fact, in Atma Ramayana, there is that second line. In fact, we had also discussed where Swami says one of the two important lessons that you should learn from Ramayana is every character is divine. Is the second letter Swami says. And when we think back, why was Vasishtha forced at that moment to enter? Why was Kaikeyi, who was so insistent that Sita took away all jewelry, remained subdued to that argument of Vasishtha? Why did Rama, who was always insistent that Sita should take away all the ornaments and walk like a mendicant, was silent at that point of time? Why did even Mother Sita, who had no attachment to anything, carry the jewels? I mean, when you look back all these small apparent clues, we see it like a detective, very clever. We see in these mystery movies, the criminal leaves small trails so that the detective kind of catches in with the crime. It's apparently the sadhaka, if he observes closely, he can follow these clues and reach a logical conclusion that yes, there is a bigger play in the background that is going on.
And probably, when you look at Lalita Sahasranam's quotes and all that, then it shows that there is a requirement for avatar, whether they are in the form of a mother or an avatar himself, to be decked in a certain manner for our sake, to identify, to adore, and to worship them. But while this is one aspect of looking at it, he never does one episode just for one point. There is another beautiful character which gets highlighted through this episode, and that character is of Lakshman. When the ornaments are brought in forth in front of Ram, and maybe then Sugriva opens the thing and showed it to Ram, Prabhu, look at these jewels. Ram emotionally looks at Lakshman and he says, Lakshman, can you identify these jewels? And incidentally, the first thing he shows was the ornament which mother wears on her face and on her ears and nose. And Lakshman's statement is another shocker, I would say, or a surprise or a beauty of his character. And Lakshman very humbly submits that, brother, all these times I have never seen mother's face properly. I have only looked at her feet and spoke to her. So if you have any ornament of her feet, I will be more than happy to acknowledge. And he did recognize those ornaments which she wore in her feet. And that itself is an amazing attribute of this beautiful personality or persona called Lakshman. And what a servitude, and what a dedication, and what humility. That even though he walked along with mother, he served them, but he never raised his eyes beyond a certain level. And he respectfully accepts that I only know the ornaments of her feet. And this story, I think, is very popular. Everybody knows it in some context or other. And Bhagwan has also very beautifully described the character of Lakshman from here. That what kind of persona these people had. When they called mother, they really meant it. If you look at it, what was the age gap between Ram and Lakshman? 1 day. It was a day old. So in our context, we don't even think that you are older to me if you are 1 day older to me. But here they consider that as a father figure. And look at that incidence of jewelry, showing jewelry of Mother Sita has opened up so much to learn and highlighted an amazing character of Lakshman. Your thoughts, Raju?
Yes, brother. And I think we should also, even in the current circumstances where polygamy, if not openly accepted, at least it is acknowledged, it is widespread. And in current times, even amidst, if you look at the circumstances or the culture of those times, it was very common for for a man to have multiple wives, or for a wife to have uh, multiple relationships. It was nothing absurd in that aspect. So, for example, how do I say this? So, we have all the clues all over Ramayana. So, it was not when Shurpanakha came to seek Rama's company. It was nothing morally. She was not affected, because it's accepted. It's okay to have a relationship with multiple men. In fact, we talk of so much of Tara. Tara, after 1 month after Vali's death, she spends time with Sugriva, and even when Ahalya gets cursed, there is a line which says what is so wrong that Ahalya had done. Her son questions Father Gautama as to what is a big mistake she had done. She just mistook someone else for you, but even if it is a mistake, what is the big deal? Or you look at Swetaketu's, the shocker of Swetaketu is on similar times. The son of uh, the great teacher. I'm sorry, I'm not getting his name. The Chandogya Upanishads master. So the Swetaketu, his turning point of his life was his mother. They go to market and his mother chooses to go with someone else. It is in those circumstances Vali taking over this with women and Vali taking over Sugriva's wife was not considered. Yes, Rama considered immoral, but Vali or the social circumstances of those times, it was not. It was normal. We read the descriptions of Ravana having countless women in his bedroom when Hanuman walks in, or we look at say, even for example, why all that far? Dasharatha, Rama's own father, had 3 wives. It is in those circumstances Lakshmana displaying such sterling quality is something that we should be uh, noticing. His display of that complete control over his senses, right from thoughts to sight, even to touch. uh, I think that's where Swami, in the youth conference in 1996 and 1999, Swami highlights two characters continuously and multiple times. One is Lakshmana, second is Hanuman. In fact, Swami goes on to explain this particular episode where he says, if at all you have to consider one person to emulate, take this, and he talks about the story of Lakshmana, and he says, such was the greatness of Lakshmana that, and the beauty is Swami does not openly say it, and Swami says the story, and then Swami immediately jumps to the war scene where Lakshmana was shot by Indra, and Hanuman is away to get the hill Sanjeevani, and Rama, and Swami describes Rama falling on Lakshmana's body and is crying. What does Rama say? And Swami says, Rama says that I might get a wife like Sita, I might get a father like Dasharatha, but I cannot get a brother like Lakshmana. And Swami says, look at uh, that was the cry that Rama had. I mean, very subtly indicating that Lakshmana had become so dear. And even if you look at the Premavahini book, the entire Premavahini is the first book that Swami wrote. I mean, apparently, when Swami said that Upadesha at the age of 32, the first work that Swami wrote was Premavahini. And the first chapter of Premavahini is considered to be the summary of entire Premavahini. And all the 14 Vahinis that Swami wrote are considered to be an exposition of Premavahini. Each chapter has become one work later. So that entire Premavahini, literally the entire work of the avatar, which is consolidated in the first chapter, which apparently is consolidated in the first paragraph, and Swami's emphasis is on character. He says, if there is one thing that is worthy to be developed by human to earn God's grace, it is character, because that alone takes you across lifetimes. And Swami gives the sterling example of Lakshmana. He says that is what Lakshmana stood for. This is what we see here, that Lakshmana saying that I don't recognize anything. Even in the current times, it appears strange, but at that point of time, when polygamy and everything was considered to be the norm of the day, is exemplary. I mean, it is nothing short of legendary.
Well, I'm sure there are so many more lessons from these things coming. Okay, let's continue the journey. So from there, now comes the time when Lord Ram has asked Sugriv to take over the responsibility of the kingdom, and Sugriv is coronated, for which even Lakshman is sent to Kishkinda to do the formalities. And once that is done, and Sugriv has to, but Sugriv is eager to fulfill his obligation as a friend and as promised. But here, one more very beautiful pause is that when Sugriv has to rule, he starts getting clouded with doubts and I would say regret. And there is a lot of repentance in Sugriv. The more and more he thinks about how his brother died and how he was responsible for his brother's death, and the last words that Vali spoke to Ram were so enlightening for Sugriv, and that filled him with a lot of guilt that such a great brother of mine, who had all good virtues except one, and I am the cause of his death. And that was actually disturbing him, and he did not even feel like becoming the king or remaining a king. And it's at that point of time, Lakshman comes forward. I'm sure that is why Lord Ram sends Lakshman along with him to console and guide him. And in that, he prepares Sugriv how to rule the kingdom. And Bhagavan very beautifully writes that Lakshman teaches him the art of governance, and he guides him and helps him in day to day affairs for some time. And that is how Sugriv gets settled into his kingdom. But Sugriv is eager to serve the Lord and do his bidding as promised. So he calls for a meeting. He calls for a meeting of his generals and of his ministers, and they all settle down and they decide that now the rainy season is coming, and that season is not appropriate for the search, because the whole army of Vanaras may get distracted and may have a tough time even in pursuing in that weather. And so it is always better to wait till the rain finishes. That would may take another 3 months. And they propose that to Ram, Lord Ram. They go to Sri Ram and say, this is a condition, this is what we suggest, we feel, what do you say? And Bhagwan Ram also accepts it. He accepts their argument and he sees the validity of that, and they agree to wait for 3 months. But as promised, Lord Ram could not enter the kingdom. So now Bhagwan Ram with Lakshman takes shelter in on Rishimukh Parvat, and Vali returns to Kishkinda. Now here they write, it's a very beautiful description that the rains were very bad. They were extreme in that season, so much so that many days it was almost impossible even for Lakshman to come out of the cave to even look for food, even to get some fruits or some, you know, anything to eat. He could not step out. It was such torrential rains and bad weather. And it's that time the only companion Ram and Lakshman had was Hanuman. And Lord Ram did not leave or lose an opportunity to share with Lakshman and the company of Lakshman. So he would teach him a lot of things, but the only other companion who became their a friend, comrade at that time was Hanuman. So that period of 3 months of rain turned out to be blessing in a way for Hanuman. So Raju, please share that era, that moment as it comes.
Yes, and brother, just before we move on to Hanuman, just going back to that point where you mentioned and where Swami had written about Sugriva having a lamenting, rather having the remorse that he being the cause of Vali's death. In a discourse, Swami asks a very pertinent question. He says, Dharmaja was epitome of Dharma. He was considered to be the personification, supposedly, of Dharma. Bhishma, supposed to be a personification of valor and complete control over senses. And yet, these two have not received Gita, but it was Arjuna who received Gita. And he asked the question as to why is it so? It is because Arjuna, Bhishma, and Dharmaja had paschatapa. They felt bad after a act happening. While Arjuna had Purvatapa, he had that vision, forevision, and that allowed him to inquire. And and in another place, Swami beautifully points out that when you have Paschatapa, what happens is you are doubting, essentially you are kind of feeling bad that certain thing has happened, which means you are doubting the sequence of events. In Chennai, I remember when one of my classmates, when we had asked Swami what is surrender, the second sentence Swami said is, in surrender there is no give and take, sir. And he said accepting everything as God's prasadam is complete surrender. I kept thinking as to why did Swami write this line about Sugriva? Why did Swami emphasize, leave two paragraphs describing this condition of Sugriva? And to my mind, to my little mind, it struck me that probably Swami is hinting at Sugriva even after all this. Sugriva is doubting. Imagine it is Rama who killed Vali. It is Rama who coronated Sugriva. It is Rama who consoled Tara. It is Rama who presided the happenings of all those. And in spite of that, Sugriva feels that something bad has happened. That he was the cause for Vali's death. That should not have happened, which means the ability, rather the faith of Sugriva to trust his own judgment is far more than his faith to trust Rama's call or Rama's decisions, which I think is a very subtle way of hinting that Sugriva has not still fully surrendered to the acts of Rama. And and then uh, and then Swami describes the second paragraph where he calls the leaders and says, the rainy season is coming. All the monkey hordes will put. Swami writes the word will be put hard. He says, uh, the search for Sita. My heart is will be. So he says that Azam would be hard put to move about in clouds and in cold and in storms. And that's the line as Swami says used by Sugriva. And look at look at that contrast. And Swami gives the example of all of us have heard it many times. That particular incident where one of the chosen brothers was, in fact, you were the one who had narrated it also one time. He was holding a jug and he was passing by from one room to another room, and Swami called him. So this person just turns back, puts the jug on the table, and he turns this side and comes to Swami. And Swami doesn't look at him. Our brother is waiting. That Swami had called him just one few seconds back, and Swami doesn't respond. And our brother says, "Swami," he calls out Swami. Swami looks at him, what? And says, "Swami, you called me." Swami said, "Oh, I called you that time. Appud pilchanu." All that this brother was just to turn the other side, put the jug and turn this side. And Swami says, even for that, he says, "Appud pilchan." So when the work of God calls is beckoned, even to spend such moment in making a decision is considered to be delay by the Lord. And here is Sugriva. He did not have these concerns when Rama came and helped him. He did not have these concerns when Rama shot those 5 or 7 trees or bursted that mountain. He made sure that Vali is killed. Only after Vali is killed, only after he is coronated, now our Sugriva is now finding an apparent in the garb of the kingdom. I'm
No,
not. My bigger point is I'm not.
Rama, yeah. Hello,
My,
got paused.
hello, sorry. No, I'm
Sorry,
saying
you had paused.
I'm not trying to criticize Sugriva, but what I'm, yes, am I audible now?
Yeah,
My
yeah.
my point is that is that's how powerful is Maya. That this was the same Sugriva who swore his allegiance to Rama, come what may, and the minute that kingdom got to him, so he has lost the visibility. He has apparently the judgment got a bit clouded, and that is exactly what Swami says. When Kama enters, Rama distances himself. Sita wanted
No,
the
Ram, in
deer,
fact,
and
if you recall, when Sugriv praises Ram after he does, he cuts the trees and all that, and Rama tells you that I don't get impacted by it because your response is temporary. So, because this is again a lesson for all of us that when we start appreciating things in life, just because we were blessed for a moment, and we start appreciating things because we got the way we wanted things to happen, that appreciation, a true realized being like Ram or Bhagwan, does not consider as an appreciation because that is a sign of your gratification rather than the real appreciation coming out of your heart. So that's why Bhagwan says this is like a temporary phase. Just because I fulfilled, you are dancing. If I do not fulfill, you will
Swami Rama,
criticize.
Rama.
So this is what some used to say: ups and ups to downs to ups to jumps to, that you are not constant, and this is the beauty. So I would say, even though Sugri was nothing short of Bali, they both were equally, effulgent and royal people. Yet they depicted a character, and in their character there was a kind of lacuna that we look at it today, and that was highlighted. But there is another beauty, like, as we say, for a play to happen, there has to be a negative role and a positive role. But both the roles have to be played by the best actors, and both are divine. So whether it is Bali, Sugriv, or Ravan, or Lakshman, they are all divine, and that is the beauty of this whole Ramayana. That how they are indulging into each and every activity. Now look at the next jump from here. Now here Sugriv is, like, accepted. Now let us talk about that 3 months with Hanuman, with
Yes,
Ram and
yes.
Lakshman.
So,
Let's talk about that part so that
yes,
it highlights the beauty of their stay. Even though the weather is totally against you, there's rains, you can't step out, but when there's a Lord and devotee, then everything is beautiful.
yes. I remember, in fact, one of the senior brothers was sharing recently when he was talking about his Kode experiences in one of the Kode sessions, early Kode sessions, I think, probably 91 or 90. 89 was the first batches. During that sessions, Swami had mentioned that all the boys were sitting around Swami, and it started raining, and Swami made a mention, passing remark, saying that this is exactly how. And Swami was talking, and all the boys were, looking. They were so lost in Swami that they did not realize that outside was raining, and apparently one of the senior devotees who got drenched came in, and Swami looked at him and said and started laughing that he got drenched, and that's when boys realized that it is actually raining, and in that's the context. The remark that Swami says this is exactly how Lakshmana and Hanuman used to spend time with Rama in the cave. So that senior brother was telling me it seems at that point of time it did not make sense to me. I was thinking, where did they spend time with Rama in the cave? And then when I highlighted this part, probably he said, yeah, probably yes, this is what Swami is referring to. That it seems every day Hanuman was the one who would go to Rama and spend all his time with Rama. That entire day was in Rama's presence, and Rama apparently this 3 months was the bonding. As to an extent, the Maya was taking away Sugriva and in the duties of the kingdom, but here was Rama granting all that physical, the sweetness of the physical proximity to Hanuman, and in one of the poetic descriptions of a Telugu poet who had that insight, uh, he mentions that those were the days when Rama revealed to Hanuman about the secret of his birth, about all his childhood pranks. Literally, Rama was kind of revealing to Hanuman his omniscience as to how he was with him all throughout his life. By the time 3 months had ended, Hanuman was completely prepared, like a perfectly chiseled instrument. He was ready for all the tasks that are supposed to be taken forward. And it's like the Lord has used all those 3 months to chisel that pencil that it became a perfect instrument in his hand. And Hanuman was all upright and ready. And in fact, as Swami mentions, even I remember our in our UG classes, our uh, warden, that time warden, was eloquently describing this scene of Rama getting angry, and he, as per one of the versions of Ramayana, Rama tells Lakshmana that go and tell Sugriva that the doors to hell through which Vali walked are not yet closed. This apparently was the sentence used by our teacher, our warden, and he explained a lot about this sentence to us in the class. That evening, Swami mentions it right that it seems that much drama was not enacted by Rama. All that Rama had to do was to express a bit of displeasure. Like, see, ain't Allah some probably if you know correlate with Ram Swami, probably he would have just said one word. ఏంటి ఇంత డిలే చేస్తున్నాడు, ఏంటి ఇంత లేట్ చేస్తున్నాడు, బుద్ధి లేదు, సంథింగ్ లైక్ దట్. Hanuman caught the whiff of it, and even Ramakatha Savani kind of very clearly says that Lakshmana tells
Here,
Hanuman, and
yeah, here
Hanuman
he writes,
understood.
yeah, here he writes very simple that Ram turns to Lakshman and says, I think the time has come to warn Sugriva. So it's a very English way of saying that, remind him. And that remind, we know what reminder means, you know. So, and
And
Lakshman turns towards Hanuman and he requests Hanuman that he should lead the campaign. Now, as we know Lakshman from description so far, that he has followed Lord Ram to the T. He has not used his head in interpreting what Ram is saying. So, if Ram would have given an instruction to Lakshman to go, then Lakshman would not have passed down that instruction to Hanuman. That is how I
yes,
look at
beautiful.
it. So, which means Ram has just mentioned that I think the time has come to warn Sugriva. So, there must be something of that statement which Ram must have expressed. And Lakshman turned towards Hanuman and he says, being a minister of Sugriva, and since you have spent time with Ram, he understands what Bhagwan Ram meant. He understands the seriousness of the time and the event. And he says, lead it. And then Hanuman goes to Sugriva. Interestingly, in Ram Katha Raswani, Bhagwan has not elaborated that much. So probably the scolding of Hanuman or negotiation of Hanuman need not be highlighted to that extent. But if we read other literatures, you realize Hanuman was quite skillful and direct to Sugriva in reminding him that he has failed in his duties and he has taken enough time. And even reminding you is not appropriate by the Lord. But I guess Sugriva, as I was telling you, he was also not an ordinary person. Just the reminder itself was enough for Sugriva to realize that he needs to act now. And Sugriva immediately, accepts his mistake and rushes to Ram, asks for his forgiveness, and immediately calls for a meeting to plan how he has to proceed to find Mother Sita. And this is where the whole gathering happens and the allocation. Now, Raju, I would like you to share that, beauty of it is from a very physical and human perspective. Imagine a Vanar living on a Rishimukh Parvat a small little mountain, hillock, I would say, not even a mountain proper, in one part of the southern part of India. He is governing all his Vanaras, and now his duty is to make sure that every inch of the earth is searched, negotiated, so that they can find where mother is. So, can you just take a few minutes to describe how Sugriv divides the army and sends them to different corners of the world?
Yes, brother. In fact, but just to add here in this context, there are studies, current researchers who are doing in-depth studies about this particular episode of Sugriva's knowledge global atlas, and they say that the description of Sugriva matches to the cross of the T of the current geography of Earth. He was so perfect in his description as to how and where the Vanaras should go back. In fact, there's just to quote one example, he assembles all the Vanaras and then he talks to them about where all they should go before dividing the armies. So he talks to them. He says, for example, at one point he says, go up to the uh, go up to the great Parvata of Mahendragiri, from which Hanuman apparently jumps, and that is where you will see Agastya. And now, at a very physical level, we assume that this Agastya means the Rishi Agastya. But now our researchers have detailed. They have gone into in-depth studies as to why was Sugriva using this particular term. If you go back to the astrology and to the movement of stars and planets, if you take it back to 12,000 to 15,000 years back, this particular Agastya was kind of the pole star at that time, and that was visible only from the Mahendragiri Parvat. It was not visible from the current Hampi, from where Sugriva was giving. The only place that it was visible to Indians was you have to walk up to Mahendragiri, and at that particular angle only that star was visible. It's a very small example, and Hanuman says that here I see here I see Agastya. The Lord's words have come true. The Sugriva's words have come true. So that is the knowledge of Sugriva. And in fact, Rama asks him, "How do you know so much about the geography of the world?" He says, "Lord, being scared of my brother, I ran around the world 3 times, and during this stage, I have realized the every nook and corner of the world." Now he kind of talks about all the directions in which the monkeys have to go, and then he divides them into different groups. So Swami writes it, Sushena and Mandava, they went north. They searched the Gandhamadana mountain range, Sumeru peak, Arjuna mountain, Nilgiri ranges, and the caves therein until at last they reached the shore of the northern sea. Hanuman went east with a group of followers. So, and Hanuman, apparently in that Hanuman's uh, uh, team was also the leader Angada and Jambavan. Swami does not make a mention of the other general. There are 4 generals that were sent on that, but he makes only mention of these 3 generals. So, the third general, that is being Angada and his team, they were sent out towards the southeast direction. Now, as I recall a beautiful story where Swami talks of, it seems when Rama had come out to address. So the meeting was called. Um, I'm not able to exactly recollect the context in which Swami said. I will. So the meeting was called in, and all the thousands of vanaras have assembled outside. And it is for the first time that all these vanaras are seeing Rama. They've only heard rumors that someone's wife got abducted, that he helped Sugriva, and there are also rumors that Sugriva actually conspired with this human, with this Manava, and got Vali killed. So amidst all the rumors, there was this one particular fellow, our great engineer, as Swami mentions, Nala. So he was also there, and Rama comes out for the first time to speak to the Vanaras. And I remember when Swami mentioned that it seems they were stunned, literally, that you can imagine all those Vanaras sitting, imagine thousands of monkeys sitting, and what sort of whispering would have been, what sort of gibbering would have been there, what sort of the chit chat would have been there. All that went just silent when Rama emerged from the cave and came out. They were so spellbound by his beauty and presence that they were stunned, and they were. Swami says it seems Rama did not even speak for long. All that he said is, "Now Sugriva, please." Suggest that was enough. It was like a magic spell that worked on them, and and they walked like a spellbound zombies. They were so lost in Rama's beauty that uh, there's a description where Angada says when they reach the Indian Ocean, the tip of the says, "Oh, have we walked so far that we were so lost in Rama that we did not realize that you have come to the end of the country." Such was the mesmerizing presence of Lord Rama. And and I'm sure all of us know, like all of us remember that many instances we can so well relate to this. That Grama Seva instance where Swami came out and said, "How many of you will go and serve villages?" Entire Kulanthal went up, their hands went up. I've asked, in fact, I very clearly remember, I asked one of the Sevadal was sitting behind. I asked him, "Did you hear what Swami said?" He said, "I could not hear anything because neither do understand Telugu nor nor was the voice clear." I said, "Why did you raise?" He said, "I don't know. Everybody, it something happened to me. I just raised." And everybody, I'm sure it is the same magic spell that Rama cast on the monkeys, that they ran. And brother, just to add here one beautiful episode that Swami mentions. We had used this in one of the recent dramas. It seems just before going out to address those thousands of monkeys, inside, now Rama is being asked, requested by the apparently the leaders, Sugriva and his minister Hanuman, to come out. And even before Rama is going out, Rama is asking everyone, the leaders, that he's basically testing, and he asks, "Is it? Do you think it is possible to find Sita?" And it seems immediately it was Neela who says, "This is a daunting task." And Rama looks at Angada. Angada says, "Lord, it appears to be a bit impossible because we have not seen Sita. All said and done, we don't know where Ravana would have hidden her." Sugriva, he's not saying, but he's not even objecting to it, which means he is kind of giving his concurrence to what they are saying. And Hanuman immediately objects. As Swami says, Hanuman immediately interjects and says, "We will find, Lord, we will find." And the beautiful conversation is Rama asks, Angada interjects and says, "Hanuman, remember, you are the minister of Sugriva. When you talk, it is Sugriva talking. Please be careful. Watch your words." And Hanuman says, "Why do you even doubt? Who is the one who has asked? It is the Lord who has asked. Whose task are we setting upon? It is the Lord's task that we're setting upon." The fact that Rama asked means that there's already the objective is achieved. And immediately after that, Swami says, Rama calls Hanuman and gives him the ring, saying, "When you find Sita, you give." Which is the case is closed actually. That a wise mind would have understood that it is Hanuman who is going to find Sita, and Sita is already found.
See, this is also very, very important aspect you have raised, that how does Ram give ring to Lakshmana, Hanuman, when there are four generals going in four different directions? And so this also is a very beautiful indicator that it is predestined who has to find Mother Sita and how it has to be found. So, okay, we'll continue with the story. And Brother Raju, you may have to leave, so no problem. Carry on. Sai Ram.
My apologies then.
No. So let us continue with the story here, that Lord Ram has chosen in a very beautiful, inimitable style of an avatar to show that who ultimately is going to succeed in this beautiful divine mission. And he immediately calls Hanuman and hands him over his ring as a mark of his love, his approval, and also an indicator that when you see Sita, this ring will help you as an introduction. Now, this story is not even, in Ram Katha Swahini also Bhagavan has not touched upon it, but Bhagavan has said this story in other places. And I would like to highlight that aspect of this ring. So anything which Bhagavan does, as I said, it has got multifaceted, ways of looking at it. And one beautiful story is when Hanuman is flying across to Lanka, the ring slips from him and it falls in the ocean. And Hanuman immediately dives in to get the ring back. Chasing the ring, Hanuman almost touches the surface of the ocean. And there he notices a mountain of ring. The same ring, many he sees like a mountain there. And now he's wondering which is his real ring. Imagine we ourselves in that situation when we are carrying a ring and now the ring gets mixed up with other rings in the whole green. And now we are to find which is my only ring. And there the Lord of Ocean appears and smilingly asks Hanuman, "Hey Vanaraj, why are you looking so surprised and puzzled? All these rings are real. You can pick up anyone and continue your journey." And at that time, Hanuman, apparently very surprised, he asks, "How come?" And then the Ocean King says that, hey Vanar, this is not the first time that you have come and you have dropped the ring. This is the nth time and you will be coming many, many times more. Probably I don't know how many times. And this story will continue. And imagine at every stage of Kalpa, this Ramayana has to happen. The cycle of birth and death, cycle of Rama, Krishna, all that has to happen. And in each cycle, one or two lucky souls get ejected as a liberated souls. And the story continues with other characters to build the Ramayana. And then there are some characters like Hanuman who are Jivan Muktas, who continue to come for the benefit and liberation of other beings. So this aspect of teaching, this law of cyclic effect, that till you eject, you are there. So the same Ramayana would have happened many, many times before in different ways, different variations. Probably sometimes the ring has been totally eliminated from the story. So many times Hanuman has not come down even to pick up the ring. That ring has become the pile of mountain. Or many times probably he would have gone without even taking the ring from Ram and done something else. We don't know. But ultimately, when the compilation of the story happened, as a good writer, you pick up the best element to weave the story together, which can not only become an information of the avataric journey, but it can also be taken as a learning curve, an event which can be depicted of all the scriptural knowledge, summarized together. And when you look at the whole compact, then you understand that what Valmiki wrote was not a Ramayana of one event or one life. He gave us the summation of the avataric journey. And that is why probably in different variations of Ramayana, we get new flavors everywhere. And it is not easy for an ordinary reader to know that when did that particular event happen in what manner. So probably I don't know how many lives Ahilya must have suffered or done the penance, and in which episode of Ramayana she got liberated. We don't know how many parallel, like yes, how many times, how many lives must Shabri wait before she got the blessing of Rama. So this is a very beautiful thing which Bhagwan had highlighted in a different sessions. But I can now understand from my limited way that probably writing is not easy for a common audience to really read and understand these variations of Ramayana. But here was Ram who gave this beautiful ring to Hanuman as an acknowledgement that now I have found a person who is available for my task. See, when we are debating, and this is a beautiful lesson which Bhagavan has taught us, when we are debating about who can do Lord's work, we always look of our abilities. We always try to find out how able or how capable we are to serve the Lord. So I look at my qualifications, my skill sets, and my physical prowess, and many more things to make an assessment that will I be able to serve the Lord. But we unfortunately forget that these kind of evolutions are human, they are very gross, and they are mundane. These kind of logical thought processes may work in the worldly matters, but when it comes to the spiritual realm of our life, then these things do not hold right. And Bhagwan says it very beautifully. He says, I don't need your ability to be my instrument. I do not need your ability to do the task that I appoint you for. I need your availability. Availability is the only thing that, from a perspective of saying that I have a will, I have a free will to do something, that free will, if you think you have, then he expects that we should use that free will to remain available for God. So instead of chasing to improve our ability, we have to work on our availability for the Lord. And in all these scenarios, if we find, be it Lakshman, be it Hanuman, or be it anybody else, they all who became dear to the Lord, who served him, who were given the opportunity to be something, that was not because of their ability, but because of their willingness to be available to the Lord. Because once the Lord accepts us, then ability is bestowed upon it. Then mukam karoti vachalam, as Bhagavan says, happens. A dumb would speak, a blind would see, a lame would walk, climb the mountain. All that can happen the moment we make ourselves available for the Lord. And I find all these examples of discussions, of elaborations by Lord Ram is precisely to identify who is available for me. At every stage of life, if you look at Ramayana, the picking of avatar is not based on your ability. Otherwise, Bali was more able than Sugriva. But who was available for the Lord makes the difference. At every stage of avataric journey, be it Rama or be it Krishna or be it Satyasai, the choice of selection by the Lord is done on availability rather than the ability of the servant or of the devotee. And I feel this lesson is such dear to me and an inspiration to lead a life in a particular format. And that is what I see from this example of Hanuman. And he says, Lord, the moment you have said, that means the event is already done. Now it is a formality that we have to perform, and it shall be done. And we have seen this illustration even while hospital came about, Many events happen in Puttaparthi around us, and the moment he says, let it happen, then it's only our duty just to join the flow, because we know that once Bhagwan has said hospital, it will happen. There is no doubt about it. Super speciality he announced in 1 year, and for the first 3 months, there was no activity done at all. So practically, in 9 months, the hospital came about, and that to a super specialty hospital in a remote village. So it is not the ability of humans that the avatar looks for, because avatar's thought itself is enough to manifest things. Now, from this junction, a story moves to a very beautiful episode. All these Vanaras are actually searching and walking around and moving in the directions, where they come to a place, a very beautiful area. It is near a lake, and they see a very nice lady in meditation. And there they are mesmerized to see in that forest or a jungle this great lady who is meditating and doing the penance. They prostrate before her and they admire that how she's engaged in her austerities. And she opens her eyes, and as a mother, she looks at them, and then he says, you Vanaras look very tired, exhausted. Take rest. And she offers them fruits and inquires them as to the purpose for which you all are, they are moving around. And when she hears, and there's a smile on her face, and then she tells about herself. She says, my name is Swayamprabha. I'm the daughter of a celestial Gandharva. She and her friend Hema did penance to please Brahmadev. And time came when Brahmadev was happy, pleased, and he manifests before them, and he's ready to give boon. When Swayamprabha says that her desire, her wish is to see the Supreme Lord in human form, walking. And Brahma says, blesses her with that boon, and she says, you continue to wait here. A time is coming when the Lord will walk this planet, and he gives certain signs, and he tells her the whole story of Ram in brief. And he says Brahma will appear, they will appear, and he will have, his wife would be abducted, and an army of monkeys would be searching for him, and they would come to you. You can guide them and encourage them, and that would be your time, that you are now ready to see the Lord in the human form. Just by listening to Ram, just by listening to this Vanaras and remembering Brahma's boon, Swayamprabha is ecstatic. She is in bliss. She feels as if she has already seen Lord Ram. The joy of her expectation of manifestation of her boon itself makes her feel the oneness with the Lord. And she encouragingly says to them, O Vanaras, on this seashore, on a seashore in a beautiful city, at the center of a charming garden, alone, all by herself, Sita is bewailing her fate. You will see her without doubt. Be assured of this, and proceed in confidence and with courage. That's her divine vision, that she could see and encourage the monkeys and tell them, Vanaras, move on, do not hesitate. But Vanaras have another problem, that the allocated time which Sugriva had given them is only 2 days apart. And which means that if they do not finish their task within the next 2 days, which is allocated to them, then they would be facing kind of the wrath of their king, Sugriva, and they would disappoint him. And they didn't want to disappoint either Lord Ram or their king Sugriva. So they are always in worry, how would we find in 2 days? Even though, look at, this is the irony of a normal devotee or a follower versus a devotee. These monkeys are following, these vanaras are following the instructions, but the element, the attribute of a devotee is missing in them. Hence there is a doubt, questioning, and there comes Jambavant. Now mind you, Jambavant is a Manas Putra of Brahma. We know him as a bear king. He's the son, or you can say a son of the mental progeny of Lord Brahma himself. So he has lived through different kalpas, Satyug and Tretayug. So when he is encouraging them and saying, don't grieve, we all have put our best foot forward. You all have done your best. Even if Sugriva does not understands, because he's not seen us in action, he has not seen how sincerely we are looking for Mother Sita. But be assured that Ram knows it. There is another beautiful glimpse by Jambavant. He says, Ram is witness to our actions. So in spite of all that, be assured that he would take our side, because he knows how sincerely and how willingly we all have been looking for and doing our task. So continue and do not worry about the day or 2 days that has been left for us to search for it. So from Swayamprabha, can you imagine that how we are, moving ahead in life, that even after a declaration by a person like Swayamprabha, there is still doubt in people and still wondering how to handle it. And when this debate is going on and they are walking around near the ocean front, there appears Sampathi. Sampathi, as we all know, is the brother of Jatayu, the eagle king, the bird king. And we know the story, we have dealt with the story in previous episodes, how Jatayu fights with Ravan, tries to obstruct, but due to his old age, he gets defeated and he loses his wings, and ultimately in the lap of Ram, he passes on. So Sampathi has come to the ocean shore to pay his last respects. They do after death, the ceremonies after death. So Sampathi had come for that task. And when he sees them, he inquires, and Sampathi has something to say to them. And here it is important to mention about Sampathi. Sampathi and Jatayu, they were, very powerful and mighty birds, you can say. And especially Sampathi had little ego. And they both had a competition one day. And they said, let's see who can touch the sun and come. Because they could fly long distances, they could do anything. So Sampathi and Jatayu had a competition, and they both took off towards sun. But half the way, Jatayu realized that it is futile and it is foolish to fly towards sun, and he backs off. In fact, he accepts the defeat. He says, I can't fly anymore towards the sun. But Sampathi, in his ego, wanted to prove how strong he is, and he continues to fly towards sun. And in the process, as he nears sun, the heat of the sun burns his wings and he falls down. So this is the way Sampathi loses his majestic wings, and now he's limited, constructed. He can't do anything as a bird king. So here he has come, and he was repenting for what he has done. And at that time, one sage named Chandram, who was passing by and who saw this Sampathi, he came and taught him the Atmic knowledge, helped him with wisdom to recover out of this depression and lead a life. And Sampathi was saved from that point of view. And this was the same sage Chandram who mentions to Sampathi about Ram. And he tells him about the mission of Ram, how he is going to come, what is his life, and how he will come and collaborate with Vanaras, and they will all be chasing, and ultimately they will come here and you will meet them. He says that would be your purpose of life, and that would be a liberation for you too. So Sampathi from that day onwards has been waiting for this moment when he would meet the Vanaras and fulfill his obligation as told by the sage Chandram. And Sampathi then told them that actually I know about Mother Sita, because then he mentioned them another story about his son Suparna. One day Sampathi was very hungry, and because of his wings were not there, he could not hunt for himself. So he instructs his son to get some food for him in an urgent basis. And his son Suparna goes out for hunt, but he gets delayed in coming back. And when he returns, Sampathi says, I was so hungry that I didn't even look at him, listen to him. I just grabbed the food and ate it. And after that, I asked him, why were you delayed? At that time, Suparna explains that when he was coming after hunt, he found that somebody was abducting a lady, and the lady was in anguish. She was crying for help. And Suparna tries, he says, when I saw that, he tried to fight with that giant. And he explains, Bhagavan writes also that he explains that that person had 20 faces and 10 hands and all that. He describes him in a very ferocious manner. And he says that person was abducting a lady and going away, and I didn't feel it right. So I went and fought with that person. Unfortunately, I was too weak for him. He defeated me and he took off. And because of this engagement, I got delayed. So you can see that the moral compass, the moral character, even of those era's birds, were so high that they didn't even consider whether they are capable enough to fight adversaries or not, but they jumped in what was needed at that moment. Listening to his son Suparna, he understood that the person shouting Ram Ram must be Sita, and the demon who abducted her must be Ravan. And he immediately says that yes, but he felt so disgusted with himself that because of his inability to fly, because he didn't have the wings, he could not act on his own desire or anger. But ultimately he reconciled himself, remembering the words of the sage that a day when Vanara would come and he would be the one to guide them further. So Sampathi he said, as per the command of the sage, he was waiting for the army of Vanaras to come. And then, beauty is that Sampathi starts giving them directions. He tells them detail about Lanka. So imagine standing at the shore of the ocean. He is now giving a descriptive description of Lanka. And he even tells them that I can see Mother Sita there. He tells them very clearly how she is, she is there in the Lanka, and how she is been in a what do you call it, garden. And he tells them every description of how the Mother Sita is sitting there and everything. So even he's asked, like, how are you so clear? How can you tell as if you are looking at it? And Sampathi very beautifully says, actually Angad, it's Angad who questions Sampathi. That Sampathi, how are you so sure that you are able to see Mother Sita, who is in Ashok Vatika, in the forest and garden of Ashokavan? So Sampathi says that he, Angad, understands that we eagles have a long, very good sight, and we are able to see 400 yojanas, up to 400 yojanas. And Bhagavan writes it very beautifully that as he explains this about Mother Sita, how she is, and describing the whole, the geography of Lanka and Ashokvan, his wing starts to grow instantly. And that is a time when Sampathi regains his wings. And he turns towards every Vanara and says, be assured, as told by my Guru and my Rishi to me, you will see success. And then he flies off. And the point here, what we see through other characters also, how these people come, do their bit, and then leave is very divine. Say, for example, Swayamprabha, she was also given an instruction that she will see a divine in human form. But as far as the story goes, we have only seen her describing Bhagwan and giving the instructions and then leaving. Sampathi also does his job, informs, regains his wings, and flies off. Unfortunately, Ram's story, normally as narrated, does not capture the culmination of these great beings, be it Sampathi, be it, these saints. So there are many such people whom we don't know how their lives culminated, what ultimately happened. But the beauty is to realize that how these so-called Jivan Muktas, the beauty of these beautiful souls, how they enter the lives, how they come and do their bit and humbly disappear from the scene. And then Sampathi leaves. And here, let me give you a little description about this measurement of yojanas. And this is a very interesting measurement, so I thought I'll share with all of you. And that would help for a perspective that when Sampathi said that we eagles can see over 400 yojanas, what does that mean? So the measurement in the calculation comes like one danda is to narakas. Nara is humans. 2 narakas equal to 6 feet. So narakas are half of humans. So 6 feet, 2 narakas is equal to 6 feet, which is roughly 1.8 meters. And that is equal to 1 purusha. So 2 narakas is basically one whole man. Then 2000 dandas, dhanus, makes 1 gayuti. Gai is a Hindi word, Sanskrit word for cow. So the way the sound of cow is called gayuti. So distance to which a cow calls or lowing can be heard. So one Gayuti, that is equivalent to 2000 Dhanus. So which means if you put 2000 Purushas together, probably, that is the time we can hear, and that calculation is roughly around 12,000 feet or 3.7 kilometers. Now these calculations may vary depending on there are different ways of calculating. So I am just putting an average numbers here that I found, which could be at least on an average, we can say this much could be the distance. But the variation can be there, but those variations are immaterial. At least we get a fair idea of how these distances were. So 2000 Dhanus is 3.7 kilometers or 12,000 feet, and 4 Gayutis is 1 Yojana. And 1 Yojana is equivalent to 12 kilometers or 8 miles. So this is a rough idea about 1 Yojana. Now here Sampathi says, we have an ability to see up to 400 Yojanas. So now you can imagine that what a sight it must be, that a person can see 400 Yojanas, which is almost 4,800 kilometers. Now we know geographically from India last point to Sri Lanka is roughly around 60 kilometers, 55 around there, 60 kilometers. So which means Sampathi could clearly see, which was well within his reach, physical reach, to see through what was happening in Lanka, and he could tell. And I recall one day Bhagwan was standing at the portico in the mandir, and if people who have been to Puttaparthi side, they would know how far the Gopuram is, that majestic gate of mandir. Outside the Gopuram, there are shops in the line, and one shopkeeper in that queue had changed his board. He had put up a new board. So Bhagwan was standing with us. I'm talking to you about 80s, and Bhagwan read the board from here. And he said, oh, he has changed the board. And he read it. So we all looked at it. We could not even see the board properly. It was like a small dot outside there. And Bhagwan very comfortably read the board. And he said, see, I can see that he has changed the board. He has written a new word. And he read it out. And he smiled at us. He said, what do you think? This is my physical ability. You can also have that. So he could hear whispers of a devotee sitting in the hall. And that is his physical ability. He said that's not a divine ability. This is a physical ability. And that ability comes from the purity of a being. And he reminded us that if you are pure in your thought, word, and deed, you would also have these powers and abilities in you. So his ability to see that much with comfort and hear a whisper in the hall at a physical level was his ability. And here we see that an eagle of that era had a vision, a physical vision ability to see up to 400 yojanas. So obviously that distance did not make much difference. So I thought that this is a very beautiful piece of information that we all can learn from, and which will help us to really appreciate, how things happen. And then the leap, and that is a very beautiful, I would say, story here. Now, here again, the same concept of ability and availability appears, and the descriptive dialogues go that everybody settles down together and they look at Angad as a prince to guide further, and they say, how do we approach now, since now we know that Mother Sita is in that island. Now somebody has to physically go and meet her and inquire and then come back and report. Who would do that? And Angad, as a perfect manager, he calls for a quick meeting, and in that he proposes, okay, tell us who all are willing to take up this task. And there's a very beautiful way that everybody starts presenting their abilities of how we could do that. So somebody says, like Nala says, I can go to 40 feet, 40 yojanas, and Neil says, I can jump to. But here, Sampathi had already told them that a person who is able to jump up to 100 yojanas will be able to do this job. That was given by Sampathi. So Sampathi had actually, if you say, he had already shortlisted who could do that. So now Angad had to really check, cross-check that who all have this ability. So like Angad, Nal says 40, Neil said 60. Like that, everybody started telling that how much they can jump, and they were all within that. Angad himself said that, yes, I can jump 100, but that is all I have the energy. But I don't know if I can, because once I reach Lanka, there's high likelihood that I will have to encounter Rakshasas, I have to encounter something. I should have the ability to prepare myself for other eventualities. Maybe I have to fight with some people and then collect the information of mother and then jump back. And if I can't jump back, then the purpose is not solved. So he was remorseful of his inability to fly. And then Jamvant, the old man, enters the scene and he says, your thought is not right. Because if you start getting depressed and talk negative like that about yourself, this would impact the morale of the whole army. And more importantly, you are next in line for the throne and you are very important. We cannot let you go. Even if you were capable, you cannot go. And especially when you have an army of people who are willing to give away their lives for your sake, for your command. So for that position, the dignity of the position, you should not feel anything negative, you should not feel anything bad, and you don't need to go. And let us find people who can do it. And we are sure we'll find. And he indicates towards Hanuman, and Angad looks at Hanuman and he turns towards him and he says, Hey Vanaraj, you are actually prepared, you are actually ready for that. You are capable, you are devoted, you have complete faith in Lord Ram, and you are known servant of Lord, and you are ready to do anything for Lord Ram. And he starts, all of them join in, and Angad leads the way, and they encourage Hanuman. And as they say, the curse on Hanuman was that he would forget himself. And I've shared my thoughts that it was not a curse, actually, it was his ability to remain immersed in Ram that made him forget about himself. So that so-called curse was a blessing for Hanuman to remain in the constant thought of Ram. So here when Angad and others started reminding Hanuman of his ability and encouraging him, Hanuman immediately got up and he said, sure, Lord Ram's work can never stop and I shall do it. And he enhances his form. And Bhagavan says that he grew up to 60 feet. In fact, that Hanuman statue on Hillview Stadium, mountain top in Prashantinilayam, Puttaparthi, when it was built, Bhagavan said, this is the exact height what Hanuman took to jump to Lanka. Another beautiful, the correlation with Lord puts us in perspective that those stories are real and that thing happened. So it seems Hanuman got up with the name of Ram on his lips, he jumped. And they said that when he pushed, the mountain peak on which he was standing to jump, not only it broke, but it got pressed into the Netherlands. So it was such a powerful push that Hanuman gave to take off. And that was the leap, and you can call it a leap of faith or a leap of devotion. The Lanka, the Hanuman jumped for. See, this is a very beautiful, the depiction by Bhagavan of how a devotee must be. I remember when we were talking about, chantings on a daily basis. So Bhagavan would tell us that, okay, initially you start as a practice. So you can do maybe a mala, beads, or you can just chant for some time in the morning, in night. But think that you are pausing to do chanting. And what Bhagavan intended us to do was that we should continuously be chanting and then pause from chanting to respond to somebody or to do other things as required by our dharma. So chanting and remembering Lord was not a part-time activity or not an event which could be done at a particular time. That was actually or is supposed to be actually our prime job. And other things are secondary. So here was Hanuman, who was an epitome of this attribute, that he was constantly in the Ram's thought until he was disturbed to do an activity for Ram. And that activity also he did it fully immersed in Ram, for Ram, as his agent. He had no iota of self in any of his actions. Even though he jumped, he conquered so many things, but when he would finish, his humility was so much that he would humbly say, it is all because of the grace of my Lord that I could be able to do that. So this is the beauty of Hanuman, I find, that in every stage of his journey, Lord Hanuman has depicted amazing attributes. He's an inspiration. He's a true role model for everyone. You want to be a good negotiator, Hanuman is your role model. You want to be a good, courageous person, a leader, Hanuman is the role model. You want to be humble, you want to be servitude attitude, Hanuman is an example. I do not see any area that Lord Hanuman has not excelled. And in spite of all of this, Lord Hanuman is an epitome of humility and servitude. All that he does, he only thinks of Lord Ram. All that he accomplishes, he only gives credit to Ram. And this Hanuman has leaped now. This leap is amazing. This leap of faith, this leap was not because Hanuman was capable. This leap was because he made himself available for his master. It is this Hanuman who has done justification to Ramayana. In fact, I feel many characters of Ramayana are important, but Hanuman is one of the most amazing, unique personalities, a persona. In a way, Ramayana, I would say the most credit goes to Ramayana for highlighting such a beautiful character of Hanuman. How would the world know what devotion could mean? How would we learn what servitude could mean? How could we learn that how a person can accomplish everything without an iota of ego in them? All that was Hanuman. So let us stop here and we'll proceed further, because now we are getting into another beautiful journey of Hanuman and his adventures and his tales. and I hope next time the connection would be slightly better for us. So apologies for some confusion here, but let me see if he has any questions. Yash Brother asks, is living with gratitude and only having desire to show gratitude an aspect of surrender or love? Is it qualified as devotion? Why is it emphasized so much? Brother Yash is asking actually about gratitude, and the question is very nice, in which he's saying about gratitude, the importance of gratitude. Bhagwan, Brother Yash, Bhagwan says that gratitude is one of the most critical attributes of a human being. Without gratitude, a human being is not a human being. So we may have a body of a human, but we are not humans unless we have this attribute of gratitude. And this gratitude actually translates into other things if you look at it from that point of view. And yes, because of gratitude in us, surrender becomes easy. Because of gratitude, the love manifests. If we do not have gratitude, our love also will not manifest. That doesn't mean that we don't have love. Love is the core of our attribute. But the manifestation of love happens because of the attribute of gratitude. And the surrender becomes easy because of gratitude. And gratitude, I don't know, you're saying, is it qualified as devotion? I have to think about that. But yes, gratitude actually would lead into devotion, obviously. Because when I'm grateful, when the more and more you admire your life, the more and more you start contemplating on the relationship between you and the Lord, we are bound to get devoted to Lord. How can you not love that beautiful energy, that supreme consciousness who fondles you, who loves you with so much? And probably that is why Bhagwan gave so much of importance to this one attribute of gratitude. That's why gratitude towards your parents, gratitude towards the nature, school, teachers, everything. And the gratitude is one quality which blossoms in our humanness, which proves us as a human being, and which leads us into reaching higher heights. I hope it helps, Brother Yash. Love the way you bring these aspects into. Thank you, Sister Neelam. So I guess today's session will close here, and we hopefully and prayerfully continue this beautiful journey and bring you another story, another chapter of this divine journey called Ramayana and Sai Ram Katha. We learn from each other. Thank you, and Sai Ram to all. Please feel free to